Okay. Welcome everybody to Online with the CMC. I'm Dr. Pamela Thomas. Eric McKinney and I will be presenting Shall We Play a Game? Cataloging games. We will answer your questions at the end of the presentation, and I will also allow you to unmute yourself after we have finished the presentation. I just put the evaluation form link in the chat box. We suggest and encourage you to fill that out because we want your feedback on this session as well as suggestions for current sessions. I think that's all I need to say, and Eric, take it away.
All right, thank you very much, Pam. Good morning, everyone, and welcome to the very first Online with the CMC of the new year. We're going to start off the new year with games. Yay! Here's our agenda for today. We will define what we mean by games. Then we will look at the mark fields we will need to pay attention to while cataloging them. We will finish out by looking at mark records of various types of games. I will begin with video games, and then we'll move outdoors and look at a couple outdoor examples. And Pam will finish up with examples of both card and board games. All right, the definitions. So game definition, the definition at the top of the slide, along with how to code the type of material, can be found in the Online Audiovisual Catalogers, or OLAC, Best Practices for Cataloging with Original RDA Toolkit, rather. Excuse me, that's a mouthful. BFAS is OCLC's Bibliographic Formats and Standards. The final definition of a game is from ODLIS, or ODLIS, which is the Online Dictionary for Library and Information Science. Both of these are hyperlinked on the resources slide at the end of the presentation. All right, the common fields in a mark record for games that should be transcribed are listed here on the slide. This information is also taken from OLAC Best Practices document and is also hyperlinked on the resources slide at the end of the presentation. There's not too much out of the norm here as far as cataloging, normal title popper, addition statement, etc., but we do want to discuss the 3 XXs later. So let's begin by examining the records of a couple video games, looking at the fields we'll need to use. Our first video game is one of my favorites of 2025, Kingdom Come Deliverance 2, or KCD2. Play as medieval knight Henry of Skalitz as he seeks justice against his half-brother Sigismund of Hungary. The game takes place in a detailed medieval Hungary that pays attention to historical accuracy. I will be looking at the Xbox Series X record of this game in OCLC, which is 1464611-695. I will start with the fixed fields and we can work our way down from there. As you can see, this record is created using the computer files template. For that reason, we have a type of M for computer files. B level is M, as the item is a monograph / item. A description of I indicates the record will be using ISBD punctuation. E level was cheerfully ignored in this case. The form of the item is Q for direct electronic. BFAST defines direct electronic as storage on a directly accessible, tangible recording medium such as disk, tape, playaway device, flash drive, portable hard drive, etc. But BFAS also instructs us not to use code Q for items that do not require the use of a computer, such as music compact discs and video discs. Continuing on, source is D for other, since the record was created by an organization other than a National Bibliographic Agency or participant in a cooperative cataloging program. GPub is blank, since the game is not a government publication. Audience is E for adult, which is appropriate considering the game rating and the warnings, which we'll see later. DTST is set to T, and we provide both a publication date and a copyright date. And we'll take a look at how this will affect the 2XX fields in just a moment. Finally, we have the language set to English, since that is the primary language. The country, AU, for Austria, which is where the publisher is located. And here you can see the 0XX fields for KCD2. We will start with the extensive 007. Subfield A is the category of material, and it is set at C for electronic resource. If you were able to attend August's Online with the CMC on cataloging electronic resources, you know that materials intended to be accessed by a computer are considered electronic resources. Subfield B is the specific material designation. Ours is set to O for optical, since it is a disk. D is the color content, and because the video game is in color, D is C for multicolored. Subfield E records the dimension information, which there really isn't much, so on to G indicates 4 3/4 inches or 12 centimeters, which is the size of a typical CD, DVD, or video game. KCD2 includes sound, so subfield F is coded A to indicate such. And subfield G contains 3 dashes, indicating that the bit depth of the content is not known. And you'll see that all other fields are coded with U for unknown. Subfield H is the file format. Subfield I records whether quality assurance targets have been included. According to BFAS, quality assurance targets are standard reference points which can be interpreted by a human or machine and used to measure resolution, color, faithfulness, or representation to the original, etc. Subfield J is for listing the antecedent or source of the digital file. Did it come from the original? Was it reproduced by microform or an electronic resource? That information is not known for our game, so that is also U. Subfield K records the level of compression. Is it uncompressed, lossless, lossy, mixed? See November's online with the CMC on starting a digitization project for more information on compression levels, along with a lot of other great info. Finally, subfield L is for recording reformatting quality. Is the resource for access only, preservation, or replacement? Let's see, the 019 we're not going to worry about. It is OCLC defined. BFAS notes it is technically not included in the Mark 21 format bibliographic data. A 024, where the first indicator of 1 is used to record the UPC number. There are several 028 fields recording the various publisher numbers found on the container and on the disk. A first indicator of 5 means other publisher number. A second indicator of 1 is used to make subfield A an access point. That way, patrons can search for the item by the publisher number in the OPAC and locate it. Many of today's mainstream video games can be played in one of several different languages to reach as wide an audience as possible. Subfield A indicates the language of the game can be played in, and now we're in the 041. Subfield J is the languages of the text the game can be displayed in. And note that each language requires its own subfield A or subfield J. And we can wrap up our 0xx's with a 082, and the entry here may vary depending on the library's classification rules. I'll say for our 2xx's, of course, the 245A is going to be the title statement, and our subtitle is in subfield B. Our developer is given credit in subfield C, which is the statement of responsibility. Several 246s are included, anticipating other ways the game might be searched for in the OPAC. The addition statement is in the 250, noting that this game is for Xbox Series S and Xbox Series X systems. The 2xx's are finished out with a pair of 264s. Because we use T in DTST, we have an implied copyright date in the first 264C, and the second 264 contains the publication date in a subfield C. Okay, the 300 has the physical description of our game. This version contains 2 discs, has sound and color, and the dimensions are 4 3/4 inches. And some of that might sound familiar from the 007. The mode of issuance in the 334 is single unit since the game circulates as a whole. There are 2 336s containing the RDA content, one noting the game is a computer program, and another noting it contains 2-dimensional moving images. The 337 media type is computer, and the content carrier in the 338 is computer disk. The 34X's record the technical information of the game. The 340s note the dimensions in subfield B and color content in subfield G. Subfield I indicates the game has sound. The 347 notes the encoding format of 4K Ultra HD. Lastly, a 380 or form of work field has been added. It is using the LCSH term of video games. Excuse me while I get a sip of water. All right, our 5xx's kick off with a pair of general notes in the 500s. The first quotes a container blurb, the second notes that the game is intended for a single player. There is a short summary of the game taken from the container in appropriate 520 field. Since 1994, video games have come with a rating from the Entertainment Software Rating Board. We can record that information in a 521, the target audience note. As you can see from the description, the game is quite spicy. A rating of mature is well earned. The 538 is the system's details note, i.e. what is needed to play the game. This is the Xbox version that can be played on the Xbox Series S or the Xbox Series X console, but has been optimized for the Series X. It can run in 4K Ultra HD. This being a historical fiction game, there are historical figures in the game. You can see the 600 field for the Holy Roman Emperor Sigismund. Knights and knighthood, Civil War, Revenge, Renaissance, and Middle Ages are all used as subject headings and all have a form heading in subfield V of video games. Okay, so here are our subject headings, and we're not really going to worry about the first three subject headings. Those are added by OCLC. There are two 650s with a second indicator of 0, and those are subject form terms using LCSH. There's also a 655 genre form term with a second indicator of 7, with the term video games taken from the Library of Congress genre form terms list. The next terms are video game specific. Note that subfield 2 lists OLAC VGGT, which stands for OLAC Video Games Genre Terms. There is a link to a PDF of the complete term list on the resources slide. It is noted that it is a closed list with no plans of adding new terms. VGM, SGG are terms taken from the Open Metadata Registry's video game metadata schema. There is a link to the Open Metadata Registry on the resources page as well. The record ends with 710s, noting the publishers and the developer. And finally, a 753 system details access to computer files, again noting that an Xbox is required to play this version of the game. All right, so let's move on to our next video game. Our next game is the cult hit Disco Elysium, based on the tabletop role-playing game. This is the PC version. Our fixed fields are not going to differ greatly from KCD2. The key difference I would like to point out is the form field. Unlike KCD2, the form here is O for online, since the game is not accessed via disk. So let's run through the 007. Again, subfield A is C for electronic resource. This time, subfield B is coded R for remote, because that's how we're going to access this game. The game is in color, so D is coded for C again. Subfield E is coded N for not applicable, since it is not a physical game and has no dimensions. The game has sound, so subfield F is A. Again, subfield G is dash 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 because the bit depth is not known. Subfield H records the number of file formats. Our game only has one, so subfield H is coded for a single file format. There are no quality assurance targets present, so subfield I is A for absent. Subfield J is N for not applicable, since it is only used when the item is the result of reformatting. The level of compression in subfield K indicates the item is uncompressed. And subfield A records the reformatting quality, and since we know our item is not the result of reformatting, it is coded N for not applicable. Our record does not include 02Xs with no physical packaging. There are no UPS publisher numbers are often not present without the physical packaging. There is a 041 language code noting the game can be played in English or Chinese. And again, when a 041 is present in a record, we should expect a 546 where the codes are spelled out. And we will see that in just a little bit. And here are the 2XXs and 3XXs. The title is in 245A, and our developer, again, is credited in subfield C with the statement of responsibility. Developed by is bracketed, as that is not actually present on the GOG Disco Elysium title screen. The edition statement is also bracketed. Again, the title screen does not expressly say that it is the GOG edition, but this manifestation of the game can only be accessed through GOG's gaming platform. The GOG title screen does not list the location of the publisher, but a quick internet search shows it ZA/za/um maybe is in London. Like KCD2, there are two 264Cs with the copyright publication date recorded. The 300 shows our game as an online resource with sound and color. There are two 336 fields, one with two-dimensional moving image in the RDA content. The second 336 is computer program. The 337 is computer. That's our RDA media field. And RDA content, or I'm sorry, carrier field 338 is online resource. And note the lack of 347s or digital file characteristics. The characteristics normally recorded here, file type, encoding type, file size, resolution, are not known for the online version. And once again, a 380 or form of work of video games has been added. And here we are at the 5XXs. There is a general note in the 500 stating the game is for a single player. The 508 lists the developer and the creation production credits note. The summary in the 520 is a bit long, but I left it as I found it. The game does have a rating of T for teen and above, so a 521 has been added. The first indicator of 8 means no display content generated. The display content of reading grade level, interest grade level, special audience characteristics, motivation interest level are not noted. The 538 is the system requirements needed to access the game. A PC or laptop with an internet connection and a web browser are needed to access it. And here we are with our 546s that are spelling out the codes that are used in the 041. The text is in English or Chinese. And finally, the source of description note in the 588 states the title was taken from the publisher's resource page for the game. And let's see, we'll finish out our video games with the 6XX and 7XX fields. You can see the LC subject headings. Again, I would like to point out the OLAC VGGT terms added of detective and mystery video games, fantasy video games, and role-playing video games. A genre form term of video games is also present in a 655 with a second indicator of 7. Lastly, a 710 corporate name added entry with the developer's name is present. Note that RDA requires the use of relator terms in the 710. So developer and publisher have both been used here in a subfield E. All right. So that wraps up our video games. Now let's pretend it's a nice, bright, sunny, shiny day, and we're going to head outside to play. Our first game, pickleball. Pickleball has become super popular recently. If you're not familiar with it, it is a tennis-like game that also borrows from table tennis. It has its own scoring system, paddles, and balls. Pickleball was invented in 1965 by the future Lieutenant Governor of Washington State, Joel Pritchard, and a couple of his friends. Pickleball became the official state sport of Washington in 2022. So let's take a look at a record for a portable pickleball net. The A11N pickleball net is OCLC number 1341225. 496. And again, we will start with the fixed fields. This record was created using the visual materials template. The type is R for three-dimensional artifact or naturally occurring object. B level is again M for monograph item. And again, ISBD punctuation will be used. So desk is I, as we have seen in the other records. E level of form are again blank. TMAT equals G for game. The technique is not applicable, and the audience is coded for general. There's no time associated with the item. The date is questionable, but probably somewhere between 2012 and 2022. The language associated with the item is English, and it was made in Kansas. For our 0XX and 2XXs, note the absence of a 007. There is a 007 for tactile material, but most of the options there are Braille related. The 007 for unspecified might be an option, but the options of unspecified or other that go with that don't really add a lot of information, so I chose not to add those. The 040 subfield E indicates the record is cataloged using RDA. There is a DDC number in the 082. There is no main entry, so hence no 1XXs. The 245 is in place, and we will look at where the title came from later on in the record. There are a pair of 246s listing the alternate terms that might be used to search for the item. The place of publication was taken from somewhere other than the item itself, so it is bracketed. And let's see, we do have the publisher in subfield B, which is known, but the dates, of course, are questionable, so those are bracketed with a question mark. 300 subfield A notes it is one pickleball net. Subfield B notes the characteristics of the item and its carrying bag. A good rule of thumb for 300B, if it is present, the elements listed there should also have a corresponding 34X. And we'll take a look at that, as you can see on the slide there. The 300 ends with subfield E, noting the dimensions of both the net and the bag. The 334, or mode of issuance, is still single unit, because although it consists of more than one item, it is circulated as a single unit. 336 is three-dimensional form, 337 is unmediated, and 338 is object. And here you can see the bevy of 340s we have. We start listing information from the 300 subfield B. As you can see, each begins with a subfield 3, which lets us describe which material applies to which characteristic. The bag and net are textile materials, while the frame is made of plastic and metal. The terms are taken from the RDA registry. We will finish up our pickleballing with the 5XX and 6XXs. There is a general note with the weight of the net. That's a pretty hefty net, so that's probably good information to have there, because some people might not expect that to be almost 20 pounds. A summary notes it is, well, a portable pickleball net. I mentioned earlier we would see how the title arrived. The source of the description note in the 588 says the cataloger came up with it. Pickleball is popular enough that it does have its own subject headings in the Library of Congress, CAQQLA, and FAST. The record ends with a form genre term of puzzles and games. But since we cannot play pickleball all day, who is up for a game of horseshoes? We do not need to spend much time on the fixed fields. There is not much difference between these and our pickleball net. There is a single date and country is coded XX as the place of publication could not be determined. The cataloger in this case did include an unspecified 007. Subfield A is Z for unspecified. We will see how this affects the 33X's in a moment. Subfield B is also Z, but this time it denotes other. Subfield E is present in the 040, indicating we're using RDA. The publisher numbers are coded 5 for other, with, again, the second indicator of 1, which makes the information in subfield A an access point. And subfield B contains the publisher, and a DDC number is present in the 082. The 245 has the title proper and the publisher listed. Once more, there are several 246s to aid in finding the item. We do not know where it was made, so that is noted in subfield A of our 264, and the publisher and the date finish out our 264 in subfield B and C, respectively. And here are the 3XXs for our horseshoes. 300 subfield A lists the contents of the game. Subfield B, again, contains the characteristics, and subfield C, the dimensions of the carrying bag. This too is considered a single unit since it all circulates together. So our 334 indicates that. We have three-dimensional form in the 336. It is the 337 and 338 where we can account for the 007. Besides unmediated, there is a 337 for unspecified. The two 338s are object and other. Once again, the 34Xs should describe the characteristics listed in 300 subfield B. The horseshoes and stakes are metal, and the carrying bag characteristics are also listed. There are a variety of note fields. The 521 notes the game is for adults and teens. Giving a toddler a horseshoe to play with will not result in good luck, my opinion. So once again, the title proper was provided by the cataloger, as we can see in the 588. And let's wrap up my portion of the presentation with our 6XX and 7XXs. Again, there's the LC and CAAQLA, and fast headings are all in place. It has the same genre form term in the 655 as the pickleball net. And I'm going to admit, I was not familiar with the term quoits, but checking the authority record revealed it is certainly a good fit, as you can see there on the right. So anybody up for a game of quoits? So at this time, I'll turn the presentation over to Pam, and she will teach us about card and board games.
Thanks, Eric. Okay. So in the next slide, there's a question mark after the publication date. So I'm going to kind of explain that a little bit before we get to that slide. So according to OLAC's best practices document, it is recommended to record the copyright date when feasible. That's that first statement there on the slide. And the second best practice about recording where the title was found in Markfield 588 is also taken from OLAC's best practices document. So it says best practice recommendation for objects in video games. Always record the source of title for objects in video games in a note using Markfield 588, regardless of where the title is taken. And then next, the guidelines for formatting the 338 field carrier type for a card game. So we've got the applicable RDA carrier types for objects are card, microscope, slide, and object. Carrier type object is most frequently used for the following types of resources: three-dimensional art originals, dioramas, models, puzzles, toys, and realia, whether handmade, manufactured, or naturally occurring. And then there's an example of a 338 with subfield A card, subfield B no, and subfield 2 RDA carrier. And the note tells us that the carrier type is for an old-made card game deck. Then there's also OLAC's best practices document advising against using the 007 field physical description fixed field for objects, and this includes games. It just says do not use 007 coding for objects. And then the final guideline there is formatting the 300 field, which is from OLEX best practices. And this document is linked on our resources slide. So this is objects. For objects, specify the type or types of component pieces or subunits in parentheses following the term for the type of unit. And that's from RDA 3.4.6.3, when that information is readily ascertainable and considered important for identification or selection. And then there's an example of a 300 with only a subfield A, one jigsaw puzzle, and then enclosed in parentheses 1,000 pieces. And then the note tells us that this is a type of subunit for a jigsaw puzzle. So our first card game is Mysticana, a foundation deck, and this is the World Cat record. Next, we're going to look at the mark record in connection. This is OCLC number 151789887, Mysticana, a foundation deck. Again, this screenshot is taken from Connection, and this is the beginning of the mark record. This card game has been cataloged as visual materials, starting with the fixed field, and I go down each column rather than across, so bear with me. So we have type of record is coded R for three-dimensional artifact or naturally occurring object. BLVL, bibliographic level, is coded M for monograph or item. In this case, it's an item. DESC, or descriptive cataloging form, is coded I for ISBD punctuation. ELVL, encoding level, is coded blank for full level. I'm not going to discuss the other blank fixed fields, but since this blank actually has a meaning, I have mentioned it. Then we're going to move on to TMAT, or type of visual material, which is coded G for game. Source or cataloging source is coded D for other. Technique is coded N for not applicable. Running time is coded NNN for not applicable. DTST, type of date, publication status, is coded as S for single date. Lang, or language code, is coded ENG for English. CTRY, country of publication, etc., is coded XXU for United States. Moving on to the variable fields, the 040 field cataloging source has ENG for English in subfield B, which is the language of cataloging, and then an RDA is in subfield E for description conventions. When you are cataloging materials using RDA guidelines, you need to add subfield E RDA to the 040 field after subfield B. And this is one of the few fields where the subfields are not in alphabetical order. Dustin Dobson is a designer. As you can see, the relator term in subfield E of Mysticana, which is documented in the 100 field, main entry personal name. In the 245 field, title statement, Jamie Thule is also listed as a designer. In the 264 field, production, publication, distribution, manufacture, and copyright notice, United States is enclosed in brackets since it did not appear on the item. Subfield A is for the place of production. 264 subfield A must match CTRY, country of publication, etc. in the fixed fields. 264 subfield B is a publisher, button shy. 264 subfield C is a publication date. 2025 is in brackets and has a question mark after it since the cataloger was unsure if this was the correct date of publication. The 300 field physical description has one game, and then 18 cards is enclosed in parentheses. 9 perils, Sorcerer's Showdown, and the Path Ahead are all in subfield A, which is the extent. In subfield B, other physical details, we see color, cardstock, and in subfield C are the dimensions in wallet container 11 by 8 by 1 centimeter. There is a period after CM, which RDA considers a symbol since there is a 490 series statement field. The 336 field, content type, is coded three-dimensional form in subfield A, content type term. The 337 field, media type, is coded unmediated since there is no required device needed to play this card game, and that's all in subfield A, media type term. The 338 field, carrier type, has card in subfield A, carrier type term, since these are cards. The 340 field, physical medium, has paper in subfield A, material base and configuration, and polychrome in subfield G, color content. And both terms are aligned with the 300 field, subfield B. The 380 field, form of work, has card games in subfield A, form of work, and the thesaurus LCGFT, where this term can be found, in subfield 2. The 490 First indicator 0, second indicator blank field, series statement, series not traced, has wallet games. And now let's look at the rest of the bibliographic record on the next slide. So the 588, first indicator is 0, second indicator blank field, source of description note, informs us that the cataloger found the title from wallet and folded rule booklet. There are 5 500 fields or general notes providing the name of the artist, Philip Popovich, that the card game is for 1 to 4 players, the duration of play is 15 minutes, what kind of card game Mysticana is, and information about the publisher Button Shy Games. The 520 summary etc. note gives a brief summary of the card game. The 521 first indicator 1, second indicator blank field, target audience note, interest age level, has ages 8+. There are subject headings for card games. So you can see the 650 and the 655 fields. And there's also one for strategy in the 650. Jamie Thule, the co-designer, is in a 700, first indicator 1, second indicator blank field, added entry personal name, with designer in subfield E, which is the relator term. In another 700 field is Philip Popovich, the artist. In the 710, first indicator 2, second indicator blank field, added entry corporate name, name and direct order, is the publisher Button Shy Games. So we're going to look at the second card game, Uno. Show 'em No Mercy, Brutal, Ruthless, Unapologetic. This is the WorldCat record, and the image was taken from Amazon.com. Now let's take a look at the MARC record in connection. So this is the first part of the record. This is OCLC number 14547644970. Uno, Show 'em No Mercy, Brutal, Ruthless, Unapologetic. This card game has been cataloged as visual materials. Starting with the fixed field type of record is coded R, three-dimensional artifact or naturally occurring object. BLVL, bibliographic level, is coded M for monograph or item, in this case item. DESC, descriptive cataloging form, is coded I for ISBD punctuation. ELVL, encoding level, is coded blank for full level. Again, I'm not going to discuss the other blank codes. I've just mentioned this one because it has a meaning. TMAT, type of visual material, is coded G for game. Source or cataloging source is coded D for other. Tech or technique is coded N for not applicable. Time, running time, is coded NNN for not applicable. DTST, type of date, publication status, is coded T for publication date and copyright date. Dates, date 1 and date 2, have 2023, 2023. Lang or language code is coded ENG for English. CTRY, country of publication, etc., is coded NYU for New York, United States. Now we're going to move on to the variable fields. We're going to start with the 040 field or cataloging source, which has ING for English in subfield B, language of cataloging, and RDA in subfield E for description conventions. When you're cataloging materials using RDA guidelines, you need to add subfield E RDA to the 040 field after subfield B. Now let's look at the 245 field or title statement. We have Uno, space, colon, space, subfield B, Show 'em No Mercy, space, colon, space, Brutal, period, Ruthless, period, Unapologetic. There is a 246, first indicator 1, second indicator 3, varying form of title, note, added entry, other title, Uno, Show 'em No Mercy card game. I think you could also probably add another 246 with Uno, Show them No Mercy. In the 264 field, production, publication, distribution, manufacture, and copyright notice, you see East Aurora, NY, which is in subfield A, the place of production. And then 264 subfield A must match CTRY, country of publication, etc. in the fixed fields. 264 subfield B is a publisher, Mattel Inc. 264 subfield C is a publication date. And then 2023 is in brackets since this date was not explicitly stated as the date of publication. Then we have a 264, first indicator blank, second indicator 4, production, publication, distribution, manufacture, and copyright notice date, which has a copyrighted 2023 in subfield C. The 300 field physical description has one game and then 168 cards is enclosed in parentheses in subfield A, which is extant. And then in subfield B, other physical details, which is simply color. And then in subfield C, dimensions, which it says in box 12 by 10 by 4 centimeters. And next is the plus sign in subfield E. Accompanying material has one rule sheet, and then enclosed in parentheses 42 by 22 centimeters folded to 7 by 11 centimeters. Then we have the 334 field, mode of issuance, which has single unit in subfield A, mode of issuance term, and RDA-MI in subfield 2, source of term. Again, there are many parts to this, but you would not break up the parts and circulate them separately. So that's why it's a single unit. Now let's move on to the first 336 field, content type, which is coded three-dimensional form in subfield A, content type term. The second 336 field has text in subfield A for the text on the cards and the text in the rule sheet. The 337 field media type is coded unmediated since there's no required device needed to play this card game, and that's in subfield A, media type term. The first 338 field, carrier type, has card in subfield A, carrier type term, since these are cards. And the second 338 field has sheet in subfield A for the rule sheet. Now let's look at the rest of the bibliographic record on the next slide. So we start off with the 340 field, physical medium, which has cardboard, paper, and cardstock in separate subfield A's, material base and configuration, and polychrome and color in subfield G. And notice that cardstock does not have a subfield 2 because that term is not in the RDA registry. However, all of these terms are aligned with the 300 field, subfield B. The 385 field, audience characteristics, has 3 separate terms: children, teenagers, and adults, with subfield 2 source coded as LCDGT, which is Library of Congress demographic group terms. The 500 general note has for 2 to 6 players. The 520 summary, etc. note gives a brief summary of the updated version of this card game. The 521 first indicator 8, second indicator blank field, target audience note, no display constant generated, has 7 years old and up. There is a French subject heading in the 650 first indicator blank, second indicator 6, subject added entry topical term. There is a 655 first indicator blank, second indicator 7, which is index term genre form. Source is specified in subfield 2 for card games. In the 710 first indicator 2, second indicator blank field, added entry, corporate name, name and direct order is the publisher, Mattel Inc., with related term subfield E, publisher, and issuing body. So OLAC's best practices document also recommends adding game designers, graphic designers, etc. to the statement of responsibility or the 245 field subfield C. So the example at the top of the slide is from the best practices document, while the screenshot displays the game designer in the 100 field with the related term subfield E as creator. Okay. So let's look at Set the Family Game of Visual Perception. This is a board game, and this screenshot is from the World Cat record. And we're going to look at the MARC record next from Connection. So this is the same record in Connection. This is OCLC number 293525503. Typically, board games do not have an author, but Set the Family Game of Visual Perception does. However, perhaps the relator term in subfield E could be changed to creator instead of author, but that I think is catalogger's judgment. And notice that this is cataloged as visual materials. So we're going to start with the fixed fields. For type of record, we have a code of R for three-dimensional artifact or naturally occurring object. BLVL, bibliographic level, is coded as M for monograph or item, in this case, an item. DESC, descriptive cataloging form, is coded I for ISBD, meaning the ISBD punctuation is used in the bibliographic record. TMAT, type of visual material, is coded G for game. And you'll find this code under the subheading of three-dimensional artifacts or naturally occurring objects. Source or cataloging source is coded D for other. Tech or technique is coded as N for not applicable. Running time is coded NNN for not applicable. DTST, type of date publication status, is coded T for publication date and copyright date. Dates, date 1 and 2, both have 1991. Date 1 is the publication date and date 2 is the copyright date. Lang or language code is coded ENG for English. And remember, language represents the language of the item. CTRY country of publication, etc., is coded AZU, which is the 3-digit code for Arizona. And remember, this must match what's found in the 264 subfield A. And then the 007 field, physical description fixed field for the category material for game is unspecified. And use field 007 to code date related to the physical characteristics of resources. And then the data coded in field 007 may refer to the resources as a whole, to parts of the resource, including accompanying material, or to additional physical characteristics applicable to the resource. And the physical characteristics are often related to information in other parts of the MARC record, including field 300, fields 33X and 34X, and some of the 5XX note fields. So field A is coded as Z for unspecified, and subfield B is coded as Z for other. And for the second 007 field, subfield A is Z for unspecified, and subfield B is coded as U for unspecified. In this record, the first 007 field is for the game itself, and the second 007 field is for the container. And I know you're thinking, but Pam, you just mentioned that you're not supposed to add 007 fields to games, but alas, these were added, and I'm not going to delete them from the record. Okay. I'm going to point out some of the more unique variable fields. We've got the 041 field, language code, which has 1 as a first indicator, which means the item is or includes a translation. Subfield G is for language code of company material other than librettos and transcripts. The 246, first indicator 3, second indicator blank, varying form of title. And the first indicator 3 is for no note added entry, and it has the subtitle Family Game of Visual Perception. The 246, first indicator 3, second indicator 0, varying form of title with the first indicator of 3, no note added entry, and the second indicator of 0 portion of title has visual perception. So this is the rest of the MARC record for set the Family Game of Visual Perception. We've got the 300 field, physical description, which has 1 game, and then 2 sets of cards in parentheses, and subfield A, which is the extent. Subfield C, dimensions, has the dimensions of the case, and subfield E, accompanying material, has instruction booklet. When the 300 field ends in subfield E, the field does not end in a period. The 337 field, media type, has a field for the game with subfield A unmediated, and the second 337 field, subfield A unspecified for the container. The 338 field, carrier type, has the first field for the game with object in subfield A, and the second 338 field with unspecified in subfield A for the container. The 340 field, subfield G, has polychrome, which reflects the information found in the 300 field, subfield B. There is a 500, general note, informing us that the instructions are in English, French, and Spanish. The 520 field, summary etc. note, gives a summary statement. There are Library of Congress subject headings in the 650 fields of visual perception and problem solving. And there's also 1 Library of Congress genre form term in the 655 field, educational games. So this is our second example of a board game, Monopoly Birmingham Edition. Again, this is the World Cat record, and the image is from Amazon.com. So let's look at the MARC record in connection. So this is the beginning of OCLC number 14442602999, Monopoly Birmingham Edition. Notice that this is cataloged as visual materials, and we're going to start with the fixed field. So we have type of record is coded R for 3-dimensional artifact or naturally occurring object. BLVL, bibliographic level, is coded as M for monograph or item, in this case an item. DESC, descriptive cataloging form, is coded I for ISBD, meaning the ISBD punctuation is used in the bibliographic record. ELVL, encoding level, is coded blank for full level. I'm not going to mention the other blank fields, but that one is important. TMAT, type of visual material, is coded G for game. Again, you can find this code under the subheading of 3-dimensional artifacts or naturally occurring objects. Source, cataloging source, is coded D for other. Technique is coded as N for not applicable. AUDN or audience is coded G for general. Time, running time, is coded NNN for not applicable. DTST, type of date, publication status, is coded T for publication date and copyright date. Dates, date 1 and 2 are 2024, 2024. Date 1 is the publication date, and date 2 is the copyright date. Lang or language code is coded ENG for English. Again, Lang represents the language of the item. CTRY, country of publication, etc., is coded RIU, which is the 3-digit code for Rhode Island, United States. Remember, this must match what is found in the 264 subfield A. And now I'm just going to point out some of the more unique variable fields. So we have a 024, first indicator 1, second indicator blank, other standard identifier, universal product code of 8859960064009. The 043 field, geographic area code, is coded for Alabama, and this must match a 6XX field. The 245, both indicator 0 title statement, has Monopoly as the title and Birmingham edition as the remainder of the title. And then we also have a 250 edition statement, which also has Birmingham edition. There are 3 264 fields: production, publication, distribution, manufacture, and copyright notice. The first 264 has publication information, the second 264 field has distribution information, and the third 264 field has copyright information. In the 300 field, physical description, it has 1 game, and then enclosed in parentheses, 1 game board, 8 character tokens, 28 title deeds, 16 chance cards, 16 community chance cards, 1 pack of Monopoly money, 32 houses, 12 hotels, 2 dice, and instructions. That's all in subfield A, extent. Then in subfield B, other physical details, it has cardboard, metal, paper, plastic, color. And then in subfield C, dimensions, has the dimensions of the container, 27 by 41 by 6 centimeters. The 334 field, mode of issuance, has single unit in subfield A, mode of issuance, term, and in subfield 2, source of term, has RDA-MI, the code for RDA mode of issuance. Again, there are many parts to this, but you would not circulate them separately. You would circulate them as a whole, so that's why it's a single unit. All right, let's look at more of the MARC record on the next slide. So there are 3 336 fields: content type. We have 3-dimensional form, still image for images on the board and cards, and text for text on the board and cards. The 337 field, media type, has a field for the game with subfield A, unmediated. The 338 field, carrier type, has the first field for the cards with card, and the second 338 for the game with object in subfield A. The 340 fields reflect the material-based materials of the items and align with the terms found in the 300 field subfield B. The 588, first indicator 0, second indicator blank field, source of description note, source of description, has title from container, informing us that the cataloger found the title on the container. There are 3 500 fields, general note, informing us that this is a fast-dealing property trading game, a note with some sort of numbering code, and then a note that this game is for 2 to 6 players. The 520 field, summary, etc. note, gives a summary note and documents that this information was found on the container in subfield C, assigning source. The 521 field, target audience note, tells us that this game is suitable for ages 8 and older. There's also a Library of Congress subject heading, Monopoly, with game enclosed in parentheses, and the subfield V, miscellanea. All right, let's look at the rest of the record for Monopoly, Birmingham edition. So we have a first subject heading is a 651 for Birmingham, Alabama, with subfield X, description and travel, subfield V, miscellanea. Next is a French subject heading, and then there are 3 subject headings from the genre terms for tabletop games, GTTG. There are 2 Library of Congress genre form terms, LCGFT, of board games and puzzles and games. There's another French subject heading in the 655, and then there are 2 710 first indicator 2, second indicator blank fields, added entry, corporate name, name and direct order. First one is Hasbro Inc. with a related term licensor, and then the second one is Top Trumps USA Inc. with related terms manufacturer and distributor. Okay, we have given you all kinds of examples. Here are the resources that we used to create this presentation. And again, the PDF with the notes is in L2, so you should be able to access these URLs. Here are the CMC team on the call. We've got Barb Scobie, myself, Mary Cornell, Eric McKinney, Kat Anderberg, Ryan Rafferty. Sorry, it always says that. Katie Roberts and Andrea Joysta. Okay, Now, does anybody have any questions? And hang on and give me a second, hopefully, to allow you to unmute yourself if I can force my mouse down to the bottom. Oh, it's fun having two screens. Oh, yay. Okay. Okay, you are now able to unmute yourself if you want to. And let me check and see if we have any questions. Okay. Mary says, I noticed you all used a mixture of LCSH, Library of Congress subject headings, and LCGFT, Library of Congress form genre terms for the 380. Can you use both terminologies, or is there a preferred terminology to use in this field? As far as I know, you can use both. You just have to make sure that whatever term you use in the 380 shows up in a 6XX field. Unless, Eric, you know something more than I do.
Nope, that sounds accurate, Pam.
Okay. All right, does anybody else have any questions? Either about today's presentation or just general cataloging questions? Just a reminder, next month we will be sending Do You Hear What I Hear? Cataloging audio-enabled books. That will be February 12th at 10 a.m. Eric will be co-presenting with Mary Cornell next month. So if you're not registered in L2 for that and are interested, please do that. Again, the PDF with the notes for today's presentation are uploaded to L2. I think I'm going to hopefully put the link to the evaluation form again in the chat box. So we just encourage you to fill that out. We want feedback on our presentations, but we're also looking for future topics to cover for next fiscal year. And we'd like those suggestions to come from all of you. You should be able to unmute yourself if you have a question, or you can post your question in the chat box. And we will be sending out the link to the recording probably early next week or by early next week. Nobody has any questions?
See anything in chat?
We covered it all so well. Okay, all right. Well, if you don't have any questions, hope to see you all next month. Thank you. And all right, I'm going to stop the recording. Hopefully. Get out of here. There.